It's time for another podcast, and we are off to the races. So, this is an interesting one. We're still under COVID, and the county road that we normally go up is still closed, so we're going to do Vine once again. So, we come off of Mulberry, and Dean is up front, just a ramming and a thumping. And as somebody put it, he basically has, and I think John Bradley coined this one, and I got this from Greg, happy puppy syndrome. He's just happy to be out front, enjoying a good time, not really thinking about like what's going on too much, except for like having a good time. So so Joel and Dean are up front. Everybody else is in tow. And it's actually a pretty fast speed for going up the frontage road. I mean, you look at the speeds now, 24, 25, 27 miles an hour at times, and we're not even to the sprint zone yet. So power is just being bled off. So I'm looking at my power here, and, I'm in the upper 100s, sometimes, tapping into the 200s. So I don't know what Joel and Dean are doing up there. So you're probably wondering, so why am I picking on Dean and not Joel? So I was talking to Joel about this, and he was like, he was just matching pace. He was like, what is going on here? And you'll notice like that their handlebars are like not next to each other. And I'm going to digress here because I have a little bit of time. Like, if you are on a double pace line, your handlebars, if you're next to the person, if you were to bump into them, your handlebars should be the first thing that contact, i.e., they should be aligned. But they're not here. So you have this like parallelogram thing, which really basically messes up the rest of the pace line. So you're thinking, well, why isn't Joel going up there? Well, it's up to the rider, the stronger rider, to come back and to make certain that the handlebars are in alignment. So maybe this is like picky, right? But like a lot of the things we do in this group, we're trying to learn. And this is like ragged. So I'm also going to talk about how much space is in between the riders. A good seasoned rider makes certain that there's not a huge gap that you could drive a truck through. If I was racing back in the old days and I saw a gap this big, I'd be happy to drive right through it. And the bad side here is that when you're getting some draft, there's air. There's lots of air coming through that. It's a better draft when the riders are closer together. So maybe enough of my lecturing. Oh, and it's time for the real contest to begin, and hopefully we're not all too tired. So we got Dean and Joel still at the front, and maybe the good thing here is that they're going to be softened up a bit. And should I be complaining about them being softened up? No. So in any case, they're probably going to go back, and they do. And so Steve Hyland takes to the front. And I was expecting, maybe a civil pace until later on in the ride, because like Steve's been going through some stuff where he's not allowed to throttle a lot of wattage, but apparently his not a lot of wattage is still a lot of wattage. And like an old man once said, a half-empty can of whoop ass is still a can of whoop ass. So Steve's up front. I'm bringing him back a little bit, and we can see everybody in tow, and there's a strong wind coming from the south, so you can see he's already echeloned out. And I'm almost doing 350 horsepower or watts, trying to stay with Steve, and I'm trying to find the sweet spot there. I'm looking back, so Greg's definitely in the wind, and it's game afoot like already, and I'm like 300 watts straight up. So the big men are resting. So Kerry hasn't done like jack squat, like all the way up the frontage road, because Dean was out there throwing it down. And then there's Joel hopefully recovering, and we got Ian in there getting himself a free ride. And it looks like Isla is like OTB. So Dean once again at the front early on, throwing down some good wattage, takes over for Steve Hyland, and it looks like 27 miles an hour. Oh, we are in for a good one. We got another 3.5 miles of like probably some serious effort. So I'm looking at my heart rate, and it's already in the 170s. This is already like my red line, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I can't do much here. But I don't really know why my heart rate's that high. So one note here is it was a smoky day, and I decided to wear my N95 mask. and it's underneath my buff. So I'm not breathing all that well, but I was figuring, it's smoky, and everyone says you can breathe with a mask, and I'm going to see if in fact that is really true. Okay, spoiler alert, it's not really all that true. If you're doing like, aerobic, yeah, it's fine. But when you start throwing it down, there's an issue. So anyway, I digress. So Carrie goes to the front, and look at that. I'm into the good 400 watts trying to stay with Carrie. He is just throwing it down. Maybe there's lots of excitement here. I'm not certain what's going on, but that was a good little search. And if you look back there, the weak have been shelled. And there, Dean off the back, Ian off the back with that little effort by Carrie. Well done. So it looks like the selection has in fact been made. But it was a big effort, and all I could do was stay in there. Look at my heart rate now, 177, 178. That is crazy high for me. And that's usually all I can do for maybe a couple hundred yards. But maybe it's the mask, or maybe I'm getting stronger, or maybe I'm motivated. The legs did feel okay. But I'm thinking to myself, and this is probably wrong, like I'm thinking about like George Floyd at this point, like I can't breathe, because really, literally, I can't really breathe that well. But I'm hanging in there, and I've made the selection. So Greg's doing pretty well. Looks like Joel may have skipped out a turn because he was doing a shit ton of work coming up the frontage road, and I'm not surprised he's a little bit weary. So I'm taking up the mantle behind Carrie, and Carrie's looking strong, as usual. And I don't know if he's going to do his normal surge. I have to watch out for him because, I'm behind him sometimes, and when I'm at the front, I've been attacked. So I'm just a little bit cautious that he's in the group with us. But it's good. And looking back at Carrie, and it looks like he's breathing pretty hard, like he's working. I can see Dean. It looks like he's back there. He wishes he was in the game, but he's not. Like the poor puppy dog trying to get up there with his master. Anyway, here we go. So we're working pretty well here. Pretty much everybody is taking a turn. And there's Carrie. So Carrie's thinking to himself, I'm going to leave this group. I'm going to go back and get Dean, and they're going to reel these people in. So I'm thinking to myself, and I got this from Joel afterwards, that was Carrie was trying to do it. I thought that was Carrie was trying to do that, was going to go back and help Dean out. But we're talking about hubris here, right? You got to think you're pretty damn strong to be able to close a gap like that. And I know Carrie's got a power meter, and he knows how to throw good power out. But it would be a huge, huge, huge effort for him to go back and bring us back in. So now it's like just the three of us, a ramming and a thumping. And my heart rate looks like it's in the low 170s, which, it's just tough. I'm pretty much like on the rivet here. And if it gets any harder, I'm not going to be here much longer. But, the wattage is like decent. 200, 240, 250 or whatever. So I'm not sloughing off here, and I'm still able to hold my own. And the heart rate's getting up there, 170, and I'm pretty much punching above my weight here. But this is like good zone 5 work for me, and in the end it'll benefit, because you don't get a chance to be motivated like this most of the time. Even in Zwift, my heart rate doesn't get up this high. But since I've got the camera and I really want to make the video and I actually kind of sort of want to be there as long as possible, there's some motivation. Because, there's that point where your legs complain or your lungs complaining and you don't think you can go any further. Well, truth is you probably can. You just need to go and push yourself a little bit. So the three of us working pretty well, 26 mile an hour still, Joel at the front, and I'm taking over. I'm taking over when starting with a heart rate of 176. That's like foolishness here. But I believe this is a slight descent here. You can see my wattage is dropping a little bit because I'm trying to recover, but just doing enough that keeps the speed up. So, 26, 27 miles an hour. To push harder would just be burning off watts. So this is my chance to try to recover. But I'm looking like 176. Well, there's no recovery happening here. What we're looking for is an impending explosion. But it's just only a matter of when. So we reach down deep to come through 400 watts, cements me on the back of the group pretty well. And it looks like it's okay. I'm surprised I'm hanging in here. I think at the time I would look down at my heart rate and I'd see where it was and I'm like, oh, it's pretty high. but I'm still here. So maybe that's okay. Ooh, 180 for just a second there. So a new high for the day. Yeah, so we're definitely on the rivet here. And we're still pushing out some pretty good watts. I'm sitting in. So if I'm doing like 250 to 300 sitting in, Joel's really throwing it down up there. Greg takes over, and I think this is where I'm like, no mas. With a heart rate of 180, there's no way I can follow that and then do my turn at the front. So I'm going to try to recover. So Joel nicely slots in there. Thank you, Joel, for closing that. And I'm going to try and recover here. And the slow recovery down to 178 is happening. But I think I'm pretty much getting unhitched. But it's okay. My thoughts are really around like breathing. And like maybe every so often, like 2 or 3 minutes, I adjust my mask and try to get a little bit better breath. But at this point, I suspect that's why my heart rate is just so high. And for those people who say that you can actually perform really well with N95 mask on, I call poppycock on that one. I mean, aerobically, yeah, it's fine, but not at the higher echelons here. So it looks like I've recovered enough to come through. Heart rate 174. Greg's there, speed 25. And, oh, I look to the rear. There's no Carrie. There's no Dean. Their day is over. Oh, no, I can see them back there, but they're just back there. So let that be known. And I see that a lot. Like I see that in Zwift and stuff where somebody will go back and they say, oh, the sweepers will bring people forward. If you couldn't stay with the group in the first place, you ain't going to be brought forward. That is not going to happen. And if that is going to happen, you've got to be well coordinated. Like the group here, Joel, Greg, and I, we are well coordinated more or less, and working well together. There's lots of nonverbal communication, and it's working out well. We could probably chase some people down, but it isn't all about strength. It's about metering things. And here's where I get just totally unhitched. It's like, okay, heart rate 178, can't really breathe. And this is where the point is like, I physically noticed that I was lacking like oxygen and basically just had to shut it down. I knew I wasn't going to contest it for the sprint, so it's basically time to recover. So just a few seconds back, it looks like there's Carey who was chasing, and I guess he held us in check more or less. But I guess it was enough for him to go back and hang out with Dean, but Dean probably not even able to sit in. I'm going to go back to the early, like, what the heck was Dean doing going up the frontage road? I mean, the contest was about to begin, and you're shooting all your bullets. Oh, if I was his coach, I'd have a few things to say. But I don't want to pick on Dean. I mean, he's a nice guy, but I got to call it the way I see it. So I think, a good time was had by all. I'm looking for the days where I don't have to have the mask on. Oh, and there's Dean now. Makes a good showing of everybody else. He waves, probably, congratulating the folks that made the selection. But, yeah. Till next time. Bye.